Today's date is 21st of September 2017. I was born in 6th of August 1942 in a village now is a big IT center, Gurgaon, near Delhi. And that time it was part of India and Pakistan together. So it's a small place, population no more than 12 to 16,000. I used to work at Palam Airport, which is an international airport in Delhi. I used to meet a fairly large number of people from overseas. In addition, I was an active member of Youth Hostel Association, where we used to get quite a lot of people, made quite a few friends. Being a curious person, I always wanted to travel and see people and in their natural environment. So I moved at that time from India to UK by land route. I did not travel by air or sea, and spent quite a lot of time going all over Europe before I came to UK. I got involved with young people and lack of their provision in '64. And one thing led to another. I just stayed and worked with them ever since. And I'm still working with young people, and I still have a passion for that. I was 22, and reason I came to Southall is that I had two friends. Unfortunately, both of them died. One died in America, another went back to India. Fortunately for him, he became a very famous artist. And Manjeet Pava, and he had got literally a style in his own name. We used to live not very far from here, maybe 300 yards from here. It was a small house, but there were something like 14 individuals who were living. An interesting part was that I was the only one who could make chapatis, because being all male, and they haven't had chapatis for God knows how long. So at the weekend, if you maybe up to 30 people who are eating, and I'm making chapati from morning until late afternoon, and it was fun days. But Southall was literally all male. It was rare to see any female at the time. Work was hard. You worked something like 5.5 days, Monday to Friday full time, Saturday half days. And by the time you come out from the factory, all the places are closed, because Saturday used to be half days for shops. So getting Indian provision or provision for abates was literally impossible. 1964, that's the year I came, and I think going up to 1966, there were no more than 4,000 to 5,000 Indians. They were living in a few streets. Racism was at its peak. Uh, it wasn't overt, but I personally have seen houses where there were notices, no Bogs, no Irish, no Tinkers. Therefore, people joined together, they bought the house, and they gave accommodation, and people were sharing. To say that Asians were overcrowding is a misnomer at one level, because the other houses weren't available. Nobody was willing to give rent on rent. So you shared and you begged people to offer you accommodation. Food was unfamiliar, particularly for me, because I come from a religion which is very strict vegetarian. To eat food in factory was boiled cabbage, and you wouldn't believe the cabbage used to smell like hell. Potato mash, it was just boiled potato. No butter, no milk, nothing. Eventually, I lost enormous amount of weight, so I tried to eat sausages. You wouldn't believe it. It was an impossible life. Working in a factory, I worked in wool rubber factory, which is nearly a mile from here. Within half a day, I had blisters on my hand, because I have never worked by hand in my life. So that week I worked no more than 2.5 days. My wages were half, and I was so tired, my shoulder ached. So you can imagine that the type of life. People were earning reasonable amount of salary from that factory because they were accustomed to it. Because I got accustomed to it. But initially, piecework was very tough. I think at one level there was very little opportunity for any interaction. People were living in self-imposed isolation. Partly they couldn't speak the language, or if the language English is spoken, very few people will understand the accents. On the other hand, even people understood the language, they wouldn't talk to you. So only interaction with the white community used to be either in factory or sales staff. Quite a lot of staff wouldn't even serve you. In Southall, they started to allow few people to buy. And amazingly, people who couldn't speak the language, they wouldn't even go inside the shop. They will ask somebody who could speak the language to go inside. People who were adventurous, even who went to West Ealing or Ealing, as late as 66, 67, women were not allowed to even try their clothes because their notion was, if the clothes is worn, no other white person will bear it. So you bought the things without trying it on your size. But in terms of my personal experience was limited, although I had dealing with the white officials of town hall because I was running a youth club which I helped to establish. and other officials, but ordinary Joe public, no. Until 66, hardly any families were here. One interesting thing happened when families started to come. Young people, particularly those who were bachelor or unmarried, were kicked out from family homes. Asian women didn't want them, or the husband didn't want their wife to be alone with all the male household. So it created a different type of pressure. Young people were particularly at risk because they know where to go. They can't go to any white clubs or entertainment. So only entertainment was cinemas on Saturday. Working men club, until I think 10 years ago, very few people were members of it. So only provision was cafes or restaurants which started to open. Apart from that, nothing. Just roaming around in the street. And that inevitably led to some trouble with police, because if you look at number of arrests for obstructing the footpath, is atrocious. Young people will congregate because they can't sit at home, and police officer will come out, move along lads, and they will say, "Why? We are not doing anything." And they will charge them obstructing a footpath. And if you look at number of cases who were charged under obstructing a footpath, is nobody's business. I think the most significant date is 64 as opposed to 79. Oh, sorry, 74. Because one Asian lad by the name of Gurdeep Singh Chaggar, he was stabbed to death. And that led to a large congregation of young people to demonstrate outside the police station. And it became the trigger point around which young people came together, because the things were bubbling. The community organizations which were there, they were looking after the interests of workers, their dependents, their working condition, transfer of money, nationality, education. Whereas the young people who were growing, their expectation was different. They want to talk about their job opportunities, equalities, racism by police, overcrowding. And that became a confrontation between young people and their community. Gurdeep Chaggar's death identified that as an issue. That sharp question of racism is dull now. Young people have forgotten the sacrifices which the previous generation made and what they have to cope with, because they have forgotten that when their parents came here or grandparents came here, they had 3 or 4 pounds in their pocket. And I'll give you one incident. When I moved from that overcrowded house to a room of my own, it was late October It was very cold, and I have got no blanket. I have got only one sleeping bag, and I put myself under the mattress to gain the warmth. So you can look at it, what was the deprivation, and young people have forgotten that. And to cap it all, a few months ago, an Asian woman in a Labour Party meeting was joking with me, "Are you one of those people who came with a quilt?" So she has forgotten what her parents and grandparents been through. And with all that fight which has taken place.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Did you know that Make a Difference Entertainment is a charity?
Help us to support underrepresented talent by connecting with us on our social media.